Good afternoon, everyone. It is very glad for our opportunity to have this chance to share with you some information related to case study. My name is Zhou Yuqiao, and my presentation will mainly give a brief introduction of case study. The contents of my presentation majorly include four parts. The first one is related to the definition of case study, and the second one is about when to use case study. The third one illustrates some limitations of case study, and at last I will give a brief summary. About the definition of case study, different researchers, different scholars have various ideas towards case study. Take Stegg's idea, for example, he believes that case study research is an investigation and analysis of a single or collective case intended to capture the complexity of the object of study. Multiple data collection and the analysis methods are adopted to further develop and understand the case, shaped by context and emergent data. This is the definition given by Stegg, while for Robinson, he holds the idea that case study is a strategy for doing research which involves empirical investigation of a particular contemporary phenomenon within its real-life context using multiple sources of evidence. Here we should pay attention to those words, a particular contemporary phenomenon. This phenomenon does not only relate to natural phenomena, but also include people's behavior. But all of these phenomena should be within its real-life context. Because a case study is an empirical inquiry that investigates a contemporary phenomenon in depth and within its real-life context, especially when the boundaries between phenomena and context are not clearly evident. The case study method allows investigators to retain the holistic and meaningful characteristics of real-life events, such as individual life cycles, small group behavior, organizational and managerial processes, neighborhood change, school performance, international relations, and the maturation of industries. All of these events are happened in real life context. The case study inquiry copes with the technical distinctive situation in which there will be many more variables of interest than data points, and as one result relies on multiple sources of evidence, with data leading to converge in a triangulating fashion, and as another result benefits from the prior development of theoretical propositions to guide data collection and analysis. Here, we should pay attention to this sentence. There will be many more variables of interest than data points. For case study, it may include a large number of variables, which is similar to experiment. But the data points may be not too much, maybe not too many, just several maybe data points. And case study could be also applied by quantitative research or qualitative research. Case study could be applied by both of them. Besides that, case study could be mixed with the methods belongs to both of them in order to conduct a comprehensive research. And about the types of case study, every research method can be used for all three purposes. Therefore, the types of case study could also be categorized into three different types according to three different purposes, such as exploratory case studies, descriptive case studies, explanatory case studies. And the case study mainly focused on process and outcome. How was it done? Does it work? Then, how to distinguish different research methods? There will be three important conditions to distinguish different kinds of methods. The first one is the type of research question posed. And the second one is the extent of control an investigator has over actual behavior events. And the third one is the degree of focus on contemporary as opposite to historical events. Then, according to different purpose of use, we have different types of case study. Then, according to the subject of investigation, we could also have different types of case study, such as individual case study, community case study, social group studies, organization and institution study, studies of events, roles, and relationships. As my major, for example, I major in translation and interpretation. We may conduct a case study towards a translator or interpreter. So that belongs to individual case study. And sometimes we also conduct a case study towards a group of students in a specific university. This case study may belong to organization and institution studies. For translation, we usually have different types of translated versions. So we may also make a case study towards those translated versions. And we will also study the relationship between readers and writer, between writer and translator. So this is belong to a study of relationship between different people. Then I would like to give a brief comparison with other research approaches. From this picture, you can see that the objectives of case study, survey, experiment is different. Here, the yellow circle refers to case study, and the green one refers to survey. The blue one refers to experiment. Then we can see from this picture, for case study, it aims to explore, explain, and describe, while for experiment, it aims to explain and test. But from this picture, we could also see, although they have some different objectives, they also have some objectives to be the same. From here, we could see the differences of units and variables among these three research approaches. The same color with the last picture. The green one refers to survey, the blue refers to experiment, and the yellow refers to case study. From here, we can see that experiment, its number of units stand in the middle. And for survey, it includes the largest number of units, while case study includes the least one among these three research approaches. Here, towards the number of variables, we could say that survey and case study include a large number of variables, while for experiment, it may only include a few number of variables, less than them. Although there are some difference between different research approaches, and we clarify them into different kinds of researches, but the clarification does not imply that the boundaries between the methods are always sharp. Actually, sometimes we mix a lot of them together to conduct research. Then when to use case study? Case study are the preferred method when how or why questions are being posed, when the investigator has little control over events, when the focus is on a contemporary phenomenon within a real-life context. The case study is preferred in examining contemporary events when the relevant behaviors cannot be manipulated. Although case studies and histories can overlap, the case study's unique strength is its ability to deal with a full variety of evidence, documents, artifacts, interviews, and observations, beyond what might be available in a conventional historical study. Moreover, in some situations, informal manipulation can occur. Here I want to mention that if the situation is manipulated, experiment may be conducted. Then, along with the development of case study, there are a lot of variations within case study, such as comparative case method, explain, describe, illustrate, enlighten. Take translation and interpretation, for example. We usually conduct a comparison between two different translated versions or two different translation methods by two different translators. So we usually conduct comparative case method. Although there are a lot of strengths of case study, but there are also some limitations of case study. For example, it is very difficult to determine the case or find an issue or cause and then find a case to illustrate it or to study the case itself. And secondly, it is not easy to determine whether to study one or multiple cases. It is also not easy to define the boundaries of the case. Studying more than one case means that the researcher will go into less depth for each case. And last, I would like to give a brief summary. As far as I am concerned, a lot of researchers are conducted by using different kinds of approaches. Maybe also include the methods belongs to quantitative one, or the methods in qualitative one. Therefore, it is very important to use them together to have an arrangement of different methods. Various research methods all overlap in many ways, not marked by sharp boundaries. So in a word, when you know the objective of your research, you could apply a lot of methods together in order to finish your research successfully. That's my presentation. Thank you. After I gave a brief introduction of case study, my partner Zhang Xinyi will share with you some information related to case study design. Thank you. Bye bye. Let's welcome Zhong Xinyi.
Good evening, everyone. I am Zhong Xinyi, and this part is about case study research designs. Before we go to the research designs of case study, we need to understand what is research design. It is the logical sequence that connects the empirical data to a study's initial research questions and ultimately to its conclusions. Simply put, it is a logical plane from here to there, where here may be defined as the initial set of questions to be answered, and there is some set of conclusions or answers about these questions. For case study, here are 5 components of research design are especially important. First, a study's questions. Second, its propositions, if any. Third, its unit of analysis. Fourth, the logic linking the data to the propositions. And fifth, the criteria for interpreting the findings. And here we come to the first component, is study questions. It suggests that the form of the question in terms of who, what, where, how, and why provides an important clue regarding the most relevant research method to be used. And the case study method is most likely to be appropriate for how and why questions. And there are 3 stages help you to find suitable questions. A. Narrow your interest to a key topic or two. B. Examine closely a few key studies on your topic of interest. C. Examine another set of studies on the same topic. And then we come to the second component of a research design, is study propositions. Each proposition directs attention to something that should be examined within the scope of study. At the same time, some studies may have a legitimate reason for not having any propositions. This is the condition exists in experiments, surveys, and the other research methods like in which a topic is the subject of exploration. Instead of proposition, every exploratory study should still have some purposes. And the third component is unit of analysis. This third component is related to the fundamental problem of defining what the case is. For example, in each situation, an individual person is the case being studied. An individual is the primary unit of analysis. Information about relevant individual would be collected. And several such individuals or cases might be included in a multiple case study. The fourth and fifth components are linking data to propositions and criteria for interpreting the findings. They foreshadow the data analysis steps in case study research. In the research design phase, your main concern is to be aware of main choices and how they might suit your case study. In this way, your research design can create a more solid foundation for the later analysis. In Chapter 5, there are 5 represent ways of linking data to propositions: pattern matching, explanation building, time series analysis, logic models, and cross-case synthesis, which will be further illustrated by our fourth presenter. And here, we need to know the actual analysis is the reflection of the initial study propositions. For example, some or all of your propositions cover a temporal sequence, would mean that you might eventually use some type of time series analysis. For the criteria for interpreting a study's findings, statistical analysis offers some explicit criteria for such interpretations. For instance, by convention, social science consider a p-level of less than 0.05 to demonstrate that observed differences were statistically significant. However, much case study analysis will not rely on the use of statistics, and therefore calls attention to other ways of thinking about such criteria. A major and important alternative strategy is to identify and address rival explanations for your findings. Again, Chapter 5 discusses this strategy and how it works more fully. As the design stage of your work, the challenge is to anticipate and enumerate the important rivals, so you will include information about them as part of your data collection. For this reason, specifying important rival explanations is a part of a case study's research design work. These general characteristics of research design serve as a background for considering the specific designs for case study. Although the current state of the art does not provide detailed guidance on the last two, the complete research design should indicate what data are to be collected, as indicated by a study's question, its propositions, and its units of analysis. The design also should tell you what is to be done after the data have been collected, as indicated by the logic linking the data to the propositions and the criteria for interpreting the findings. Okay, next we come to the case study designs. Here are 4 types of case study designs. Number 1, study case holistic designs. Number 2, single case embedded designs. Number 3, multiple case holistic designs. Number 4, multiple case embedded designs. Here is the picture I selected from the book. It shows each case designs clearly, and I will illustrate each of them later. Let's come to the single case designs first. It includes single case holistic designs and single case embedded designs. For these 2 kinds of single case designs, there are 5 rationales for conducting them. One rationale for a single case is when it represents the critical case in testing a well-formulated theory. And second rationale for a single case is where the case represents an extreme case or a unique case. And the third one is the representative or typical case. The fourth one, the revelatory case. This situation exists when an investigator has an opportunity to observe and analyze a phenomenon previously inaccessible to social science inquiry. And the last rationale is the longitudinal case, studying the same single case at 2 or more different points in time. And next, we need to compare holistic and embedded case designs. The same single case study may involve more than one unit of analysis. For instance, even though a case study might be about a single organization, such as a hospital, the analysis might include outcomes about the clinical services and staff employed by the hospital, and possibly even some quantitative analysis based on the employee records of the staff. No matter how the units are selected, the resulting design would be called an embedded case study design. In contrast, if the case study examined only the global nature of an organization or of a program, a holistic design would have been used. These two variants of single case studies both have their strengths and weaknesses. The holistic design is advantageous when no logic subunits can be identified, or when the relevant theory underlying the case study is itself of a holistic nature. Potential problems arise, however, when a global approach allows an investigator to avoid examining a specific phenomenon in operational detail. That's a typical problem with a holistic design is that the entire case study may be conducted at an unduly abstract level, lacking sufficiently clear measures or data. An embedded design, however, also has its pitfalls. A major one occurs when a case study focuses only on the subunit level and fails to return to the larger unit of analysis. Okay, next we come to the multiple case designs, which include multiple case holistic designs and multiple case embedded designs. When the same study may contain more than a single case, the study has used a multiple case design. These types of designs are becoming more prevalent, but they are more expensive and time-consuming to conduct. Now let's compare the advantages and disadvantages between multiple case design and single case design. The evidence from multiple cases is often considered more compelling. The overall study is regarded as being more robust. At the same time, the rationale for single case design cannot usually be satisfied by multiple cases. By definition, the unusual or real case, the critical case, and the revelatory case all are likely to involve only single cases. Moreover, the conduct of a multiple case study can require extensive resources and time beyond the means of a single student or independent research investigator. Therefore, the decision to undertake multiple case studies cannot be taken lightly. Here we come to the last part, the comparison between multiple case holistic studies and multiple case embedded studies. I selected these two pictures which had been posted in the previous slides. On the left side is the holistic one, and on the right side is the embedded one. In the multiple case holistic studies, the result of each survey will not be pulled across. Rather, the survey data will be part of the findings for each individual or case. For instance, if you want to study the curriculum adoption from different schools, such as 9 schools, each school may be the topic of a case study. So on the left picture, the context is the curriculum adoption, and the cases means individual schools. In contrast, if the survey data are pooled across individuals or cases, the study has now become a single case study, in which all 9 schools and their students have now become part of some larger main unit of analysis. And in the multiple case embedded studies, not only each survey will not be pooled across together, but also in each case study site will conduct a more study such as survey. So the curriculum adoption is the context behind each cases, and the case in here means the different schools. And in different schools may be embedded with more surveys and experiment. Okay, that's the end of my presentation. Let's welcome the next speaker.
Hello everyone, this part is about data collection. Some people think collecting data is very easy in case study, but according to in 2003, case study research is among the hardest types of research because of the absence of well-documented procedures. Therefore, the preparation for data collection is important. If you don't prepare well, the entire work can be destroyed. So, what do we need to do before collecting data? Ian suggested the good preparation began with 5 parts. The first one is desired skills and values. He listed several skills and values needed. The first one is asking good questions. He said research is about questions, and asking questions is a prerequisite for researchers. Good questions and your tentative answers will lead to new questions. And the second is to be a good listener. A good listener can get rich information through listening without bias. Listening in a case study not only means listening to others, it also means use multiple modalities to receive information, because listening skills can be applied to documentary evidence and observation. The next is staying adaptive. In the research, changes and revisions are inevitable. Sometimes they are minor changes, and sometimes researchers need to identify new case. A good researcher can make revisions, but remember the original purpose of the case study. And next is having a firm grasp of issues being studied. The main way is to understand the purpose of the case study. This can help researchers perform better, grasp important clues, and make right decisions. Next is avoiding bias and conducting research ethically. Baker stated case study researchers are especially prone to this problem because they must understand the issues beforehand, and this understanding can let contrary evidence be ignored. The second preparation is preparing and training for a special case study. First, if your subjects are human, you need to protect them away from any harm, protect them privacy, and pay special attention to children and other vulnerable groups. You need to get formal approval from Institutional Review Board or IRB, seeking out the IRB at the institution to get its approval before the research. Sometimes training is also necessary because researchers should be independent and make right decisions in collecting data. The training covers all phases of a planned case study and aims to let researchers understand the basic concepts, terminology, methodology. For example, why the case study is being done, what evidence is being sought. In the training, a researcher can also see some flaws of their study design. It's a good opportunity for them to make revisions. And another part is protocol development and review. The protocol is a major way of increasing reliability, and it also helps a researcher collect data. A protocol consists of an overview of the case study, data collection procedures, data collection questions, and a guide for the case study report. A protocol is important because it helps researchers anticipate problems and avoid mismatch in the long run. The next preparation is selecting your candidate case. When your candidates are less than 12, you can query people knowledgeable about each candidate. You also need to define a set of operational criteria to select candidates. For a single case study, you can choose the one having the most available sources. For multiple case study, you can choose the one that best fits your replication design. If the number of your candidates is more than 12, there are steps to select your candidates. The first step, you can use archive data to reduce the number within 12. And next, you can follow the procedure about the one phrase approach. The final preparation is the pilot case study. The function of pilot case study is to help you refine your plans and develop relevant lines of questions. There are many ways to select a pilot study. Convenience, access, and geographical proximity can be the main reason. The scope of inquiry can be much broader than the data collection plan. Finally, read a pilot case study report to take down the lessons learned and the things that can be refined. After preparation, we can begin to collect the case study evidence. It suggested that there are 6 sources and 4 principles that researchers should follow when collecting case study evidence in order to increase the reliability of the information in the case study. And first, let's see the 6 sources. The first one is documentation. It's very important because it's likely to be relevant to every case study topic and is one most commonly used. There are many forms of this type of information, such as letters, personal documents, but researchers should use them carefully because sometimes people may think that all document information is true. However, in fact, some documents are written for special purpose, so some documents may be added. The most important use of documents is to corroborate and augment evidence from other sources. It can help us verify some people's name mentioned in an interview, provide other special details to corroborate information from other sources, and you can make inference from documents. The next source is an archive record. The usefulness of this kind of information will vary from case study to case study. If archive plays a key role, please be careful to ascertain its accuracy and the condition under which it was produced. An interview is another important source. There are 3 types of interviews: prolonged case study interview, shorter case study interview, and the survey interview. A prolonged interview may take place over 2 or more hours, either in a single setting or an extended period of time covering multiple settings. Researchers can ask interviewees about their opinions about something, and interviewees can also suggest some persons for researchers to interview. A major purpose of a shorter case study interview is to corroborate certain findings that you already think have been established. In this situation, specific questions must be carefully worded and allow the interviewees to provide fresh commentary. Another type interview is survey interview. Structured questionnaires are used in survey interview. The survey interview could be designed as part of embedded case study and produce quantitative data as part of the case study evidence. There are two jobs throughout the interview process. First one is to follow your line of inquiry. Second is to ask actual questions without biased manner. Recorders are commonly used to record the interview. However, it suggested the recorder should not be used when an interviewee refuse permission or feel uncomfortable about that. Second, you should not use it when there is no specific plan for transcribing or listening to the contents of record, because this process takes enormous time and energy. Moran suggested there are several software such as Dragon Natural Speaking that can help us transcribe the data and help us cut down the time of transcribing. Third, do not use a recorder when a researcher is clumsy with mechanical devices, because that can create distraction during the interview. And don't use it when researchers think that they don't need to listen carefully, because recorder devices is a substitute for listening. The third source is direct observation. Direct observation can be formal and casual. The formal observational instrument can be developed as part of the case study protocol, and the researchers may try to assess the occurrence of certain types of behaviors during the certain period in the field. The less formal one can be made throughout the field work. For example, you can observe in the interviews. But for the participant observation, researchers are not just observers. They may assume many roles within a field work situation and may actually participate in the actions being studied. This type of observation has advantages. The first one is related to your ability to gain access to events or groups that are otherwise accessible to a study. Another advantage is the ability to observe from the insider viewpoint. Well, Baker said there are several weaknesses of this observation, because in this process, there may be bias, and according to Yin, the participant role may require much attention, and the researchers may not have sufficient time to take notes or to raise questions. The final source of evidence is physical or cultural artifacts such as technological device, a tool or instrument. The evidence may be collected or observed. This kind of evidence are not commonly used in typical case study. However, when relevant, it can be an important part in the overall case. And we can see each of the source has its own strengths and weakness. Therefore, to have a good case study, researchers often use multiple sources. And this is also the first principle we need to follow to increase the reliability of the information in case study. Data triangulation helps to strengthen the construct modality of the case study. Patton discussed the 4 types of triangulation in doing evaluations. For example, the triangulation of data sources among different evaluators, of perspectives to the same data set, and methods. And this is an example of triangulation of data sources given by in 2003. Second, we need to create a case study database. And because we need to organize our data, you can develop your databases in terms of field notes, documents, tabular materials, and new narrative compilations. The main function of database is to preserve your collected data, and you can find them easily. Therefore, the database should be orderly, and it will make your own data analysis easier. The third principle we need to follow is maintain a chain of evidence. The principle is to allow an external observer or readers of the case study to follow the derivation of any evidence from initial research questions to the final case study conclusions. And this is an example. The principle 4 is exercise care when using data from electronic sources. The first caution in using electronic sources is to set some limits, deciding how much time to spend, and setting priorities for navigating. The second caution deals with your willingness to cross-check the sources you use and the information you derive from them. Cross-checking online materials with other sources would be an important way of understanding a potential slant or even interpretive bias. The third caution deals with your use of social media sites such as Facebook or YouTube to check the accuracy of the information. The final reminder is to inquire the permission if you need to use these materials in your case study. And this is all for the data collection. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone. My part is analyzing and presenting the findings of case study. There are 7 aspects to analyze data. And the first aspect is collect data, and which is introduced by my group mates, so I will skip this part. And the second part is think about the data in relation to the research, and I will introduce to you in later parts. And the third aspect is code the data, and the fourth reflect the data. The fifth organize the data in different ways to find something new. And the sixth aspect is connect emerging issues and themes to concepts and theories. And the last aspect is collect more data to continue research or to verify the findings. Let's first look at organize the data. Data collection and organizing are simultaneous. You may organize your data at the same time you collect it, right? And coding is a key method in organize the data. Coding means code the data you collected and categorize them in particular groups. Coding has 2 levels to understand it. To a macro level, all field notes, summaries, interviews, documents, and so on must be coded and dated and stored so that you can access them quickly. And to a micro level, it means researcher form a concept of the categories, themes, and patterns. What the categories will be and how many categories needed, right? And this is the second aspect of in previous pages, that is think about the data and the relation to the research. Okay. Another part is reflect data. Reflection is a rough analysis during the data collection. Rough it is not the main part of analysis. It is just a pre-processing. Reflection includes notes, memos, comments, and etc. And what is reflect? Reflect is something that the researchers write down about his feelings and thinkings about the data, and during or shortly after the collection. Pay attention to this time. It is not very long time. It is a short time after or just during the time you are collecting the data, because the main body of analysis is really time taking. Okay. Reflection is both the process of processing data and the result of it. Okay. Next, as to the rest aspects, I can use an example to illustrate it. For example, if I want to research the world's attitude towards the Communist Party, pay attention. This is not a case study, but just an example to illustrate the aspects, right? Okay. And first, if we want to collect the data, we will usually go to websites or the data pools to collect data. As you can see, there are several titles. This is from New York Times. U.S. tightens visa rules for Chinese Communist Party members. It is also from New York Times. China's Communist Party, communist to provide business. This is from Reuters. China's Communist Party to hold key meeting in late October. Also from Reuters. Propaganda 2.0. Chinese Communist Party. This is from CNN. China's Communist Party. And this is from China Daily. The Xinhua News Agency. China's economic achievements since 18th CPC National Congress. Okay, if we we code the data in usual means, we will categorize them in news reports, appealing service, official documents, right? But if we look through the titles, we can find there is an interesting difference. That is, in Western media, they tend to use China's Communist Party or Chinese Communist Party, that is CCP, while in China's media, they tend to use Communist Party of China. Okay, so when we reorganize them in a new in new groups, we found something new. So the next step is to collect the issues or themes to the concepts or theories. So we can go to linguistics to find that English language is head initial and the Chinese language is head final. Head initial means the head or the core of an English phrase is at the front part, while in Chinese, the head or the core in a phrase is usually at the final part. Or we can turn to the power theory, right? The power and discourse. That means the discourse can help to shape the power, and this is one of the three phases of a power. That is to create a norm, to make you think something is normal. And after we make the analyze analysis of this step. So we can go to the next step, that is to collect more data to continue or to verify. So back to the this title thing, okay? We can turn to look for the Communist Party's official names. First, in China, it is, of course, CPC, right? Communist Party of China. And let's look about the American Communist Party. They are CPUSA. Canada, Communist Party of Canada. And in UK, Communist Party of Britain. So we can see, no matter in which country, even in Western countries, the official name is Communist Party plus a country. But why in Western media they tend to use CCP to refer to the Communist Party of China? So at this step, we can conclude that it is how to say a fact that Western media are manipulating the people's thoughts, because when they report negative news about CCP, it is both emphasizes China and the Communist Party, while the official pattern of Communist Party's names in different countries are Communist Party plus a country, which means it is a Communist Party. It is a branch of the global communist movement. It is a very old-time thing, right? So I use this example to illustrate how the how to say reorganize data, analyze data, and collect more data is going look like. Okay, and in presenting the findings, the quantitative research and the qualitative research have different ways or different forms of presentations. For quantitative research, it has 7 steps. The first step is introduction or vignette. It means to help reader to get a feel of the time and the case. It usually an introduction to what the case it is. And the second step is the issue identification. That is to tell readers why this case is chosen to be an objective. That is to tell readers why the researcher chose this as his or her research objective. And the third step is extensive narrative. In quantitative research, this part usually refers to presenting the data, the detailed data to describe the case. And the fourth step is issue development, which means to provide similar cases or tell the readers the guide meaning to other cases of this case research. The fifth step is descriptive detail and triangulation. This step means to confirm the issues raised in the report so far. That means to tell readers that this research is trustworthy, is verified. Okay, and the sixth step is assertion. It means to tell the readers what is the researcher's understanding to the case. And the last step is closing vignette. It is a claim that the research is encounter with the case. That is telling the readers you can't use my conclusion to some other cases. They may be different, right? Okay, but to a qualitative research, it is different. First is for qualitative researches, the presentation of the findings are usually longer, and they usually have no uniform. They can be written in any form, and usually in a narrative form. Looks like a story with characters, events, conflicts, resolutions, and conclusions. Because there are three reasons for using narrative form. The first reason is the researcher is also the part of the story. He has to present the story to the readers. So that means he has to to tell something. Okay. And the second part is the second reason is participants in the research are real. They are not just the numbers. In a quantitative, you can use numbers, you can use charts, tables, diagrams, but in a qualitative, it is to tell the readers what it is. So they have their own stories. They are real people. Okay, they can't be, how to say, refined as some number. Okay. The third reason is narrative can provide a perspective to see the inner collections of the elements, the factors of a case, and which is very hard to see from the diagrams, the data, the numbers, right? Okay. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for your listening.